Hey everyone! Welcome to The Young and the Restless. I'm Jane, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Young and the Restless, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. The Young and the Restless spoilers for the next 3 weeks, July 21st to August 8th, predict that the murder mystery will be solved, as Claire Newman prepares to shock Kyle Abbott. Nate Hastings will also suffer a shattering blow. Here's what YNR fans may expect. Nick Newman and Sharon Newman will be in a dangerous predicament from July 21st to 25th, when Carter takes them captive together. Carter will refer to it as house arrest, but Sharon and Nick will regard it as kidnapping as they seek a way out of their hostage situation. Nick's attempt at a hasty getaway will ultimately fail and leave him injured, causing a setback. Back with Carter, he will face questioning from Victor Newman and Chance Chancellor. Carter would jump to Kane Ashby's defense, claiming that he did not throw the knife at Damian Germain for his boss either. Kyle Abbott, on the other hand, will foil Audra Charles's scheme to end his relationship with Claire and inform Nikki Newman about Victor's descent into despair. Things will become crazy later on when Sally Spectra and Billy Abbott assist a fresh victim. That may be Nick, as we know Sally will apply pressure to the nasty cut he sustained. Billy may become involved as the risk increases. Back with Nikki, she will flip out if she is cornered by someone. The killer appears to be taking big steps toward Nikki, but Victor or Kane Ashby may be able to save her. The whodunit may begin to wrap up between July 28th and August 1st. This attempt on Nikki's life has the potential to result in someone being apprehended or leaving new evidence. Is Carter's claim of innocence true? Carter remains a logical suspect in the murderer's identity, so we'll see if he's the culprit after all. Whatever happens, an arrest must be in the works. The authorities will take some time to arrive, but they will eventually join in on the fun. When the guests finally have access to cell service, it will be time to break some bad news. Audra may phone Nate with updates on Damian's death, while Claire informs Kyle about Cole Howard's passing. The week of August 4th to 8th will be devastating for Nate, especially since he may be the one to inform Amy Lewis that her beloved kid has died. Nate will be devastated by not being able to spend more time with his half-brother, therefore Damian's death will have a significant impact. Victoria Newman and Nate will bond over their bereavement troubles in the following weeks. We'll see if this leads to a romantic reunion. Kyle will feel bad about playing games with Audra and Nice while Claire was at home mourning. Kyle will want to make amends to Claire, and he may be unnerved by how close she has gotten to Holden Novak. Similarly, Mariah Copeland will watch Tessa Porter become closer to Daniel Romalotti Jr. while still troubled by memories of suffocating that stranger. Will Mariah regret pushing Tessa away? Regardless, Mariah may find a distraction after she learns what Sharon went through in France. Willow Creek had always been a peaceful, unassuming town, where everyone knew each other's identities and keeping secrets was difficult. That was until the night of the annual Harvest Festival, when the body of local businessman Richard Langley was discovered slumped over his desk in his study, with a single gunshot wound to the temple. The authorities initially considered it a suicide, but Claire Montgomery, Richard's longtime assistant and confidant, had reservations. She had known Richard for more than a decade, and the idea that he would commit suicide was incomprehensible. There were too many loose ends, including his recent disagreements with his business partner, Kyle Dawson, strange withdrawals from company accounts, and whispered allegations of an affair with the mayor's wife. Claire couldn't let it go, so she launched her own investigation, pulling together signs that the police had either overlooked or dismissed. It all started with the security footage from the night of the murder, or lack thereof. The cameras outside Richard's office had been discreetly disabled immediately before his murder, leaving Kyle as the only person with access to the system, who had been acting suspiciously since Richard's death. He had been quick to dismiss any idea of foul play, claiming that Richard had been under extreme stress and had most likely snapped. But Claire knew better. She probed deeper, discovering a trail of financial irregularities that pointed to embezzlement, with Kyle at the center of it all. The more she learned, the riskier her pursuit got. Anonymous threats began to materialize, including a cut tire and a message left on her doorway asking her to back off. But Claire was not easily intimidated. She confided in Nate Reynolds, the town's former investigator who had been driven into early retirement due to a scandal that had left him dissatisfied with the system. Nate was first reluctant to participate, but Claire's tenacity eventually won him over. Together, they started connecting the dots, and the picture that formed was considerably darker than either of them had anticipated. Kyle had not acted alone. The mayor, James Holloway, was involved, as was Richard's own wife, Evelyn, who was set to inherit a wealth after his death. The affair rumors were more than simply gossip, they were part of a well-planned alibi. Evelyn had been at a charity function with witnesses the night of the murder, while Kyle had been seen at a bar across town. However, Claire and Nate discovered that Kyle had snuck away unseen, long enough to drive to Richard's office, commit the murder, and return before anybody noticed he was gone. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source, Richard's personal diary, which Claire had managed to examine. Richard had documented his suspicions regarding Kyle's theft and his preparations to confront him on the night he died. He had also written about his anxieties, his suspicion that someone was following him, and his determination to record a hidden confession for insurance. Claire and Nate discovered the recording, which was concealed in a safe deposit box under a false name. Richard's voice, calm but determined, described everything, the embezzlement, the threats, and his belief that Kyle would try to quiet him. Claire and Nate presented the information to the new police chief, who had no ties to the mayor or Kyle. The arrest was quick and harsh. Kyle, caught off guard at home, attempted to fake his way out of it, but when confronted with the tape, he broke down and confessed to the murder in a fit of wrath. Evelyn and the mayor were arrested as conspirators, and their flawless alibis collapsed under the weight of the evidence. The village was left reeling, unable to reconcile the betrayal by those they had trusted. For Claire, success was bittersweet. She had solved the enigma, but it came at a cost. The threats against her increased in the last days of the investigation, ending in a break-in at her residence that left her terrified. Nate had been there to stop it, but the incident had left an impression. As the village attempted to go on, Claire found herself at a crossroads. She had always been the quiet helper in the background, but now she was the center of attention. Nate, too, was compelled to confront his personal problems. The case had revived his desire for justice, but it had also reawakened the agony of his previous failures. The two of them, joined by the secrets they had discovered, found comfort in one other's company, but neither knew what would happen next. Kyle's trial was a media spectacle, with information of the murder and conspiracy enthralling the nation. Claire testified, her voice firm as she described the facts she discovered. Nate, too, took the stand, and his testimony helped seal Kyle's fate. When the guilty verdict was announced, there was no celebration, only relief. Richard's recollection had been proven correct, but nothing could bring him back. Claire and Nate became closer over the weeks that followed, their shared experience forming a link that neither could break. Nate, who had spent years pushing people away, unexpectedly opened out to Claire. Claire, who had always been an observer, now let herself be seen. But just as they were about to tentatively investigate what might be between them, a new shockwave struck. Claire received a letter postmarked the day before Richard was murdered. Inside was a key and a note in Richard's handwriting: "If anything happens to me, use this. Trust no one." The key led them to a storage unit on the outskirts of town, where they discovered another set of documents, records of a second, larger embezzlement scheme, one that involved even more people in positions of authority. The murder had been only the beginning. The scheme was deeper than they had expected, and they were now the only ones who knew. Nate was devastated by the information, as he had anticipated that ending the investigation would bring some comfort. Instead, they were thrust back into danger, with opponents they couldn't yet identify observing their every move. However, Claire refused to back down. She had traveled too far to stop now. The two of them struck a quiet agreement to see it through, whatever the cost. The murder mystery had been solved, but the story wasn't over. The mystery had haunted Genoa City for weeks, with murmurs of betrayal, cryptic clues, and the lingering fragrance of murder in the air. At the center of it all was Claire Grace, a woman divided between atonement and secrets, and Kyle Abbott, who had no idea the storm that was about to hit him was so personal, so intimate, that it would leave him breathless and broken. Everything began to unravel the night the body was discovered, lifeless and frigid behind the Hamilton Winters warehouse. For days, distress permeated the city like a fog. Phyllis accused Tucker. Victor suspected Audra. But none of them recognized the real reality was closer to home, buried behind the broken trust between lovers, families, and business partners. Claire remained mute, terrified by what she had witnessed, a flash of movement, a broken watch, a murmured name in the shadows. She had tried to protect the person she believed she loved. However, she would soon understand that love cannot endure in darkness. Not this time. Her relationship with Kyle had been rocky from the beginning. Their relationship blossomed quickly, furiously, and haphazardly, more like a fire than a flame. Claire was pulled to him not only for his charisma, but also for the aching of unfulfilled potential in him. He kept it in his eyes. Regret. Loss. A desire for significance after everything he'd been through with Summer, Harrison, Diane, and Jack. She wondered if she could be his fresh start. And he wondered if she was someone he could finally trust again. However, trust is delicate, especially when secrets emerge in the dark. When Claire got the anonymous message, * you saw more than you realize. Meet me or the truth dies with him, * she nearly deleted it. Instead, she turned up. That choice altered everything. The man waiting for her was not who she had expected. It was not the killer. Someone was trying to protect him. Someone is desperate. Someone connected to a past she had only recently begun to uncover. The man urged her not to say anything. He informed her there was more at risk than she realized. That families would fail. That the man she loved, Kyle, would be devastated. Nonetheless, remorse stabbed at her. Every day she saw Kyle play dad to Harrison, run jabot with Jack, and share drinks at society while pretending everything was fine, she wanted to scream. Then came the second body. That's when Claire snapped. She approached Nikki first. Not the police. Nikki was the one person she trusted to understand the weight of betrayal, the anguish of family bonds twisted by deception. Despite her shock, Nikki listened. She begged Claire to come clean, not just to the cops, but also to Kyle. He deserved the truth. And so Claire informed him. Everything. She said she saw Nate Hastings the night of the murder. That Nate had been arguing with the victim, Malcolm's former colleague turned adversary, a man threatening to disclose a slew of financial misdeeds linked to Chancellor Winters and Newman Media. Claire didn't understand what she was witnessing at first. But when the man died hours later, she realized she couldn't ignore it. The fractured and bloodied watch on the victim's wrist was identical to the one Nate had given him years before as a peace offering following their previous scandal. Kyle stared at Claire, unblinking, as the reality became clear. Nate. His cousin. His business colleague. Devin grudgingly welcomed the man back. Then came the big blow. Nate had not acted alone. He had been defending someone else. Someone further above. Someone who promised to make everything go away. Claire's hands trembled as she told Kyle the truth. Audra knew. Audra had arranged the cover-up. She had proof. Emails. Surveillance tapes were erased. Witnesses were suppressed. Kyle felt as if the floor had fallen out from beneath him. He trusted Audra. He'd slept with her. More than once. And even though he had moved on and Claire had taken over his heart, the betrayal still ached. Even terrible was the notion that Claire had known for days but had not told him. She sat across from him at dinner, kissed him goodnight, and even muttered "I love you," fully aware that the truth would crush him. It did. He walked out. Didn't say anything. I just left. Claire grieved that night like she hadn't since her mother's death. Not only had she lost Kyle, but she had also become the one thing she despised, a liar. Meanwhile, Nate faced his own reckoning. Devin cornered him in the Hamilton Winters boardroom, the atmosphere thick with betrayal. "Tell me it's not true," Devin begged. Nate didn't respond. He could not. His quiet said everything. Then Devin burst. Years of hatred and animosity had boiled over. They were no longer cousins, they were enemies again. Nate admitted to being present, but claimed it was by accident. Said the man had slipped. That he had panicked. That Audra persuaded him to hide the truth. For the company, she had stated. For you. But Nate's gaze told him otherwise. He wasn't only terrified. He was guilty. Devin made a decision at that moment. He phoned the police. Nate was detained within a few hours. Before the report was finished, the news spread across GC Buzz. Victoria attempted to contain the fallout, but it was too late. Shareholders fled. Investors backed out. Elena, who had only recently regained her trust in Nate, walked away silently. Nikki confronted Audra at the Newman Tower, calling her vicious, callous, and a cancer for the company. Audra did not flinch. She denied everything. Claire explained that she was making things up to protect herself. But Claire had already turned in the evidence. The emails. The vocal recordings. The timestamps. Audra left Nate a scary voicemail: "Clean it up, or we both go down." That was enough. Audra was not arrested, yet. But she was dismissed. Blacklisted. Burned. Kyle didn't come home that night. He checked into the Grand Phoenix, turned off his phone, and stared at the ceiling for several hours. Everything he thought he knew, including his family, business, and heart, was gone. He adored Claire. He had no doubt about that. But love does not withstand treachery. Not without scars. Kyle had too many already. Jack discovered him the next morning, sitting alone in the lounge with a whiskey at 9 a.m. "You loved her," Jack explained. Kyle didn't respond. "That doesn't mean she didn't love you back," Jack explained. After a long quiet, Kyle said, "She let me fall in love with a lie." That was the truth. Claire had not pulled the trigger. But she'd used quiet as a weapon. Still, he would eventually realize that her quiet was not cowardice, but dread. And when she eventually decided to speak, it cost her everything. Nate went on trial. The courtroom was packed. Lily testified. Devin. Claire. Even Tucker. The verdict was fast. Guilty. Second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 15 years. There is no parole for 10. Audra vanished after that, with reports swirling that she had left for London. Or Dubai. Perhaps she was hidden in plain sight, plotting her next move. Claire also departed. She packed her belongings, left a note for Kyle, and traveled to Madison, where her aunt lived. The note was simple. "I never intended to hurt you. I just wanted to safeguard what I believed we had. I'm sorry I waited so long. I hope that one day you will remember me as the woman who loved you, not the woman who broke you. Kyle never responded. But 6 months later, he arrived in Madison. Claire answered the door with surprise. He looked different. Older. Quieter. But his eyes, still gentle and dark, probed hers like they always did. I'm not here to fix anything, he replied. I'm here to forgive you. Claire was speechless. So she cried. And in that moment, standing on a porch in a town neither of them had ever lived in, the murder mystery that had torn their lives apart was finally solved. Not with a bang. But there is a beginning. A peaceful one. A hopeful one. Because the truth doesn't always set you free, it can crush you. But amid those fragments, you might discover something new. Perhaps even love again.